Hi, first graders. Welcome to our brand new unit all about poetry. April is National Poetry Month. We will learn all about how poems are different from other types of writing during this unit. What is poetry? Well, poetry is a collection of words that express emotions or ideas, and sometimes they have a specific meaning, sound, or rhythm. You may have read poems before and not even known that they were poems. What can poetry help us do? Well, poetry or poems can help us build connections, help us experiment with words and using them in different ways. They can help us express our feelings, help us use all of our five senses, help us get inspiration for other ways that we can write, and they can even help us build fluency as readers. That's right. Reading poems can really help us become smoother readers. It's a really good strategy. But what do poets do? Well, a poet is someone who writes poems. And what is the purpose or the point of writing a poem? Well, a poet writes a poem to share feelings with somebody else, to tell a story or send a message, or even to be humorous or silly. Poems can also provide a description of a person, place, or thing. So poems have a lot of different jobs. What are some things that we know about poetry? Poems are very different from other types of writing that we've read before. They're not like books or stories that you've written or read. They look, sound, and feel very different. Here are some of the things that you might notice in a poem. Poems can sometimes rhyme. They can have a different shape, which we'll see in just a few minutes. Poems can be silly or serious. Poems can have patterns in the words. Poems can have a rhythm, like a song. Poems can have lots of white space on the page. They can be really short, or sometimes even really long. And there are so many different kinds of poems, too. Let's read some poems together and see what we notice. Here's a poem called Poet's Tree by Shel Silverstein. I'm going to read this poem and then notice some of the things that I find different about this poem compared to books and other things that I've read before. Poet's Tree. Underneath the poet tree, come and rest a while with me, and watch the way the word web weaves between the shady story leaves. The branches of the poet tree reach from the mountains to the sea. So come and dream or come and climb. Just don't get hit by falling rhymes. Let's see, what did I notice about this poem? Well, the first thing I noticed about this poem was that there were lots of rhyming words, like tree and me, weaves and leaves. I heard lots of words that rhyme. I also noticed that this poem had a rhythm or a beat, kind of like a song. Underneath the poet tree, come and rest a while with me. I like poems that have a rhythm and a beat. This poem was also a little bit silly, because at the end, the last two lines are, don't get hit by falling rhymes. That made me laugh a little bit. Here's a different poem called Wanna Be a Fish by 86. Ooh, I'm already noticing this poem looks very different on the page than other poems that I've read or books that I've read before too. Let's see what else I can notice. Wanna be a fish, have a slick fish head, spread fish jam on my fish bread. All's good round my bowl today. Don't like it? I'll swim away. Bubbles for my friends, swim loops without end. Shiny treasure chest, a castle of my own. Plastic kelp, fully grown. If I was a fish, I'd be the best. Not copper, bronze, not silver. I'd be a goldfish. This poem was fun. I noticed that this poem had a different shape. I can see that the poet wrote the words to be shaped like a fish. I think they did that because this poem is all about a fish. I also noticed this poem leaves a lot of white space on the page. The words are very squished together and all around it are lots of empty white space. Let's read one last poem together. This poem is called Yummy. Dessert, cold, creamy. Slurp, giggle, dribble. Cone with 3 scoops. Ice cream. That poem made me want an ice cream cone real bad. I noticed that this poem is very short. There's only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and some of the lines only have 1 word in them. It's a really short poem. I also noticed this poem is describing something, which I think is ice cream. It describes the ice cream as cold and creamy, a cone with 3 scoops. It helps me visualize in my mind a big ice cream cone with 3 scoops of ice cream that's dripping down the cone. For today's assignment, you're going to do what I just did, which is to notice different things about poetry or different elements of poetry. Things like rhyming words, white space, different shapes, silly or serious, things like that. First, you'll choose one of the poems to read that's posted on Google Classroom. You can read more if you want to. As you read, notice some of the elements of poetry we learned about today. You can use the little anchor chart to help you. Then, jot down what you notice on the Elements of Poetry worksheet. You can also do this on your own paper. Poetry is so much fun first grade. I hope you really enjoy this unit and have fun today reading these poems and noticing some of the elements of poetry. See you later.